we all started out, basically we got knocked out by Warforged.
Do you know the Warforged story?
Yeah, they're these undead Warforged that are following instructions that are obscure and hard to figure out.
But you've heard the thing of where they get beaten senseless by Warforged? That I told them in advance.
Yeah.
Basically, wherever their characters happen to be, because they're not a party at the start, right? A group of Warforged just approached them and just tried to capture them, and if they resisted, they beat them senseless, and they gave no explanation of why they were doing it, just completely silent, just started grabbing them, and they're like, "What are you doing?" All right. and they put them in sacks and drugged them. So they were just like, I started the thing with them just having like a drug stupor. They're like, "What's going on? I'm in a sack. I'm in a sack. I'm a."
Oh, I thought you just weren't very sure about the opening intro.
Oh, there was that. I couldn't get the right music there, but no, I that was also part of it. I was like, what? I'm in a sack. There's colors, and that was like and for a long period of time, they were like being taken along in a sack, and then.
And they threw us down a hole or something.
Yeah, there's like, I was like, okay, you're being moved, you feel a sharp pain in your leg, vertigo. Are you falling, or is this like some drug effect? And then you hit something hard, and it makes like a scraping metallic clang, and makes the sound of like something, sign scraping, swinging in the wind, like a rusty sign, and then there's more bang, bang. You hear these other bangs landing, and then your head is clearing. You can hear a woman weeping. You're still in a sack. There's like a horrible raging storm going on with like maybe explosions or something. Then you hear like skittering sounds, and the weeping turns to screaming. Roll for initiative. And so that was how I started the combat. Or started the campaign. They don't know where they are. They're in sacks. Their arms are tied. They've just come out of a drug stupor, and some woman is screaming in their skittering legs. That's awesome.
And yes, well,
helps to drive home that they're level 1 characters. They can forget their demigod slaying from the previous campaign.
So the combat starts, and my character is a female satyr named Cricket. She's tied up in a sack, and I managed to get the ropes off in the first round, and I'm sort of calling out, hello, who are you? I'll cooperate. Well, you don't need to beat me in a sack. I'll cooperate. And then something beat me to death.
That was basically Cricket's experience in the combat.
So something flaming red hot attacked me while I was still in the sack. I had been injured from falling, getting thrown in the hole or whatever, and then something flaming red hot bit me while I was in the sack and critted, and I went to 0 hit points.
Yay, the healer's out.
Yep. Yeah. After I was like, I'll cooperate with whatever.
The difficulty for getting the rope, because they were tied, right? The difficulty of getting the ropes off wasn't extremely hard, but it was hard enough that most of the party failed it on the first try.
I succeeded, but I didn't try and get out of the sack right away.
Oh yeah, because
I didn't want to rock the boat.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, most of the party succeeded. Now that I think of it, just a couple failed. But it was a standard action to get the ropes off, and it was a standard action to take your sack off. Taking the sack off was easy, but it was still a standard action.
So some of them action pointed, so they get off in the round.
Yeah, only one person did. It was Hank, who was the dog shifter, who just looks like a person with a dog's head, and he pulled off his sack. So I described the situation. They're up against a huge cliff on one side. There's like a howling storm full of like lightning and fire away from the cliff. They're on a little piece, a fairly large piece actually, of metal sticking out from the cliff. It's this 3 meter by 10 meter piece of metal that's hanging sort of precariously from a bunch of twisted metal out of some opening in the cliff face, and it has tubes or pipes or something about this tall at regular intervals along it, and eventually they know,
water is
they know it's later that there's a little bit of water oozing out of the top of each of these things.
Fortunately, none of us landed on any of the pipes when we got thrown
down. They're like this big and this tall.
cactus.
They're like this tall and like this big, and there's a little bit of water oozing out of the top of them.
And those perforate the metal.
Yeah, they come out of the metal, so it's like the metal's like this, and they're like they're like every at the corners of the squares. Actually, is where I drew them. And so
that's why we didn't land on it.
Yeah,
because you can only land in the middle of squares.
So they're
it's perfectly
and so
safe.
he pulls off his sack, and there's a bunch of other guys in sacks, and these things, and there's just and he makes his Arcana check. It's super easy. They've been thrown into the rift, right? Like, they've been thrown down the rift to the elemental chaos.
I knew something you didn't know.
And so there's some.
That it?
Yeah, that was it. I knew I told them you guys are going to be thrown into the rift.
And I knew that Robin was a star.
Well, we don't know that.
Yeah, that didn't actually come up yet. But
you just gave it away.
Damn it!
I know you knew something. I figured yes. Thing.
So
I was actually after I said that I was like assuming she revealed that.
She didn't.
I think it'll become.
It was kind of.
It was getting more and more obvious.
From the meal over at Montana's is like
She's like. She's beautiful.
So this piece, just as a note, this piece of metal is sitting at about like this angle, right out from the thing. It's not well held on there. So he pulls it up, and most of the people are in sacks. There's an obvious sort of peasant womanish type who's towards the end, and she's got her sack off, and this ice centipede has come up over the surface, and an ice centipede is attacking her.
It's the elemental plane, so all sorts of element-based monsters.
It was sort of like elemental vermin were coming up to get them, and so she's being attacked by this ice centipede. So he intervenes to fight this ice centipede, and meanwhile everyone else is just trying to get their sacks off.
Except me.
Yeah,
I got bit by a lava scarab and died.
Yeah, that hadn't quite happened yet, but that happened basically immediately after that. The monster's turn happened. So there's this one ice centipede.
You're a no shrooms, right?
That's right.
I remember this correctly.
So 2 more ice centipedes come up from the pit, and 2 fire spiders come up from the pit, and like over the lip of the thing, and a lightning. 2 lightning scorpions, which are just like they like actually are lightning that just happens to be shaped like a scorpion, comes up over the pit. Same with the fire spiders. And then there's a thing that kind of resembled a scarab, but it was like made out of red hot coals. And so that was actually what attacked Cricket. This like huge red hot coal scarab just like threw its bulk against her and critted her, and she went unconscious. So at this point. At this point, they're sort of panicking because they're like, the healer's down. We're still in sacks. They don't
even know I'm a healer.
There's like 10 of these like freakish bugs attacking us. They don't know where they are. It's awesome, but.
Was anything a minion, or they're all standing?
Yeah, there were some minions.
There were some minions in there, but they didn't know that.
The fire spiders were minions.
The fire spiders and the ice centipedes were minions, but they didn't know that at the time.
I would have done an Arcana check if I'd been conscious out of the sack.
Yeah, no, the only person. So there was more sacks in the party there. Another person who got his thing off fairly quickly was this gnome.
Oh, the gnome.
There was like this gnome who was just like, this is, I'm annoyed with the whole situation, and this is going to ruin my designer clothing, and what on earth are you incompetent fools doing? He made his Arcana check and knew what minions were, but he decided not to tell anyone until it became obvious he was going to die if he didn't, so but he was the only one who could see and had a good enough Arcana to know who was a minion and who wasn't. Yeah, it was pretty cool because the party was like very much freaking out and thinking, my character that I've been planning for 2 years is going to TPK in the first session.
I was pretty relaxed myself. I was like, well, it's out of my hands.
Yeah, the lightning scorpion grabbed Robin's character Aurora and got her in his pincher, and it has like this thing where if he starts his turn, he just keeps electrocuting you for lightning damage.
Right, we're out of meats. We just have a bamboo shoot and.
Ooh, dibs on the bamboo shoot.
You want it?
No.
Is there anything particularly interesting that happened early in the combat then?
Let me see now. I failed my first death save.
Hank killed one of the ice scorpions, centipedes.
I forget, what was Tim's character's name?
Croesus? Oh, yeah.
Croesus, yes.
He was awesome because we don't all know his backstory, but he was just in his sack humming, like, he gets it off, and he looks around and he's like, this is the wrong dream. This is the wrong dream! And he just starts freaking out, and he does this thing where oh, by the way, all their weapons and stuff were taken from them, but they're all just sitting conveniently in one of the sacks in the middle of the place, so they could grab their weapons as a minor action, I said, as long as they were next to it. And yeah, so he starts shouting it's a wrong dream, and he like freaks out, and this mind pulse comes out of his head and like blows away like one of the lightning scorpions and stuff. Well, this was actually a bit later, but yeah. And then one of my favorite things he did is he does all this, and then he just coolly turns to one of like the red hot coal scarabs and is like, "You're not real," and turns away. But one of the other, in addition to the gnome and that woman, there was a lightning genasi. Or the only type of genasi.
He didn't do much of anything. He just kept getting hit by lightning until he exploded.
Yeah,
I don't really know what was up with
He got hit by lightning, and then like later in the combat, he got hit by lightning again. He just kept getting hit by lightning, and finally, when they killed one of the lightning scarabs, the lightning all went into him, and he was getting more and more freaked out. And so finally, towards the
lightning genasi monsters now, or are they just they're still sentient?
Yep.
Oh yeah, he was on the party's side. He was fighting the monsters. He was in a sack. But there was a huge storm of lightning growing around the platform, and it was like clearly attracted to him and like zapping him over and over again. And so finally, what ended up happening is when the last lightning scorpion was killed, the lightning went into him, and all these strands of lightning all just attached to him, and he got lifted up in the air, and he just exploded into the lightning and was gone. Just toasted. So, yep, that happened. Yep. Sucks to be him.
I don't really know what was up with that.
Mental note, don't be a genasi in the elemental chaos.
So then Hank went down. He got taken to 0. I think it was Hank, right?
Yeah, Hank went to 0.
So he's down, and Aurora, who is
also the healer.
Also a healer. She's almost down. She's got like 7 hit points left, and she's grappled by this lightning scorpion. She's going to take damage. So it's kind of a bad situation. Excuse me. But Hank goes down, and I hear him do a death yell.
Can I help you out as well?
Sure. So I hear him do this death yell. He goes down. And I figure, okay. So, second round of the first combat of the whole campaign. I'm going to use my cinematic chip for this level.
Yeah, I just love it. Like I was just enjoying myself. Right, first combat, I was like, I'll throw you into this easy, give you a chance to ramp up. Okay, by the way, you're starting down 10 hit points, and you're in a sack, and you're being attacked. First round the healer goes down. Second round the barbarian goes down. And you don't have any
of your weapons or armor or anything on. So anyway, I hear someone, on death's door. I hear someone in dire trouble. And I'm willing to die. That's fine. But I gotta try and help whoever that is. I don't know who that is by now. So, I spend my cinematic chip to allow myself to do a second wind, even though I'm...
Yeah. Are you guys all done with that seat there?
There's some left.
Yeah, I'll take some fluid. Alrighty. I got that bamboo after all.
Yeah. Enjoy your meal.
You want to start with that?
Brian and I will indulge in the punky.
So I gotta save whoever that is. So I spend my second wind so that I won't be, unconscious anymore.
Yeah.
I use my standard action to finally get out of the sack.
And then I
use a minor action to heal. And so I healed Hank, brought him back up.
Yeah.
And that was basically the only thing I did in the combat. Later on, I think I tried doing an attack after that, but I don't remember what it was offhand.
I don't remember. That may have been it because there was only a few rounds that went by.
Yeah.
I remember one of the things that really sucked was Hank was having trouble with that ice centipede because he kept missing and it kept slowing him and immobilizing him. And so that stupid minion pretty much single-handedly took him down.
And then
He did wipe out 2 ice centipedes, though, I guess.
So we start making some progress finally on these things.
The tide start. Oh, I forgot to mention.
Cricket's awake. That's good.
So, in addition to the fact that they're in sacks and being attacked by stuff and they don't have any of their weapons, the metal, the twisted metal that this metal thing is being held up by, they hear something like slamming against it, like bam, bam, and like every round something is slamming against it, trying to bust through that twisted metal. So they know that's coming.
I actually misinterpreted. I thought something was trying to break through the metal from below.
Oh, interesting.
Because I didn't picture the cliff face having metal on it. I just thought this was like jammed into the cliff face.
No, it's basically it was being held into the hole in the cliff face by twisted metal.
Yeah, I didn't see the hole at all. I just sort of like there's a cliff face and this thing's jammed into the side. So I thought something was smashing from underneath. I thought there was some sort of large, elemental thing that was coming from below.
No, that was not the case. Something was trying to bust through the twisted metal, and it was making progress, which is worth mentioning since I mentioned that from the beginning.
So finally, it smashes through this weird lizard thing. Comes out onto the metal sticking out.
And this was just when things were finally sort of turning the party's way. They killed both the lightning scorpions. They killed everything but 1 ice centipede, and they still had 2 red hot coal scarabs, but 1 was bloodied. And so then the metal goes flying and the beast comes through.
Huge lizard comes through, but then the metal thing we're on goes wham, vertical now.
Because most of the stuff that was holding up just went flying out into the rift, and so it's just being barely held up by 1 piece. So it goes from being like this to like that, and
So
that piece is holding it in is going. Pulling away.
So the big lizard thing falls down the length of this thing, and we all desperately cling to it. And I think
because there's a little water pipe.
And
I think John was very magnanimous about that. There were 2 unconscious party members, and our sack full of items. I really think that sack should have gone down. That would have been hilarious.
I did decide to make it so that the sack. So this lizard creature falls down to the end. He knocked the peasant woman off the end, and she goes into the pit. It grabs onto the last 2 pipes and is clinging there for dear life. And the sack of items falls and hooks on one of its horns. And the 2 party members who are unconscious, I said, they don't fall. But I figure probably they need to be brought up in 1 round, or they're going to have to start. They're slipping off their pipes, right? Yeah. And everyone else has to grab onto the pipes. It's a pretty easy climb check because it's basically like a ladder of pipes. Yeah. They are oozing water, which makes it a little bit harder. Right. Because climbing a ladder is DC 5. I figure the water brings it to DC 10. Yeah. So they're slippery. It's like climbing a slippery ladder that's not meant to be a ladder.
Now, I've used all my healing stuff at this point.
Yeah.
So it's going to be up to Aurora to bring those 2 back up. I don't know what healing ability she has on her.
So is this where you ended then?
Yeah.
That was
there was a lot of...
So, I left them hanging.